Hey, what's good, people? Zensphere back again with another Renoise tutorial. It's been a little bit. Just a quickie today. I wanted to show you guys how to get thicker sounds using sampled instruments in Renoise. So let's open up a new instrument here. And we're just going to grab a saw wave. And you probably, if you've messed around at all with single cycle waveforms, you've noticed that they can sound kind of thin and one-dimensional. So what I want to show you today is how we can liven this up a little bit just by using some tricks from other types of synthesizers. A big part of what lends a sound, its richness and thickness and depth, is its unison settings. And Renoise doesn't have unison settings per se, but we can kind of emulate that by duplicating our waveform. So if we go over here and we select our samples window and select the sample that we have, we can use Command D to duplicate this waveform. And Renoise supports up to 12 simultaneous samples playing. So in effect, that's like having 12 oscillators. So what we can do, let's just leave it at 4 for now, is we can detune these slightly from each other to create kind of a thicker, richer sound. Now, we can do that manually by adjusting the fine tune for each waveform here in the sample properties pane right here. But I like to kind of automate this process by going to the modulation tab and selecting pitch as our modulation target and bringing in an LFO. And what we're going to do is change it to this sample and hold waveform and bring the frequency down all the way to 0. And then just bring our amplitude down so that we're deviating from the pitch just very slightly. Now our pitch range here is 12 semitones. I'm going to bring this down to 2 or 3, something like that, because 12 is too large. So let's just have a listen and see how this sounds. And if we compare that to our single waveform, it's a lot less interesting, right? So let's bring this back. And the beauty of this technique is that each waveform is accessing a different random value through this sample and hold pitch LFO. And you can dial this into taste to get whatever level of detune you think sounds good. That's sounding pretty thick and juicy to me. Another thing you can do is you can say, bring one waveform up an octave and another down an octave. And this will kind of lend some more depth to it. Maybe bring this range down a little. And if you wanted to, you could even continue to duplicate here. So we'll duplicate those. So we have 2 each of the original octave, the raised octave, and the lowered octave. And now you've got this really huge fat sound. You could also spread these out in the stereo field if you wanted to. I'm not sure, I believe the LFO will function the same if we target it in the panning section here. Yeah, so you can see our stereo image is spreading. So it does seem as if each oscillator acquires its own random unique value at the start of playback. And just listening on headphones, it does sound like the stereo image is shifting and changing with each key press. So that's one nice technique, and we can kind of extend this in a couple of different ways. Then, of course, you could, filter this or further process it however you want. But this gives you a nice kind of like solid bedrock of sound to start from. And of course, you could resample this and then bring it back in as a single sample. But it gets a little tricky finding the precise nodes of the waveform so that you have clean looping. It's definitely doable, but it takes a little finagling. So let's bring in a different set of waveforms. This is a technique that I like to use based on these Adventure Kid waveforms, which I've talked about in other videos. So what I like to do sometimes is just pick a category here. This works well with maybe the distorted waveforms or the overtone waveforms or the granular waveforms or the hand-drawn waveforms or the FM waveforms. It works well with any number of them. So what I like to do sometimes is just grab a section of different waveforms. Each of these has a different, you can see they're slightly different, but they're similar, right? So I'm just going to grab all of these and drag them over to our samples window. And I just deleted the duplicate there. And then we'll just do the same process. If we listen to this, already this is fairly rich. I guess we already have the detuning intact from the previous patch. If we take the pitch detune and the panning off, it sounds like this. Which already is kind of a nice harmonically rich waveform that sounds a little more interesting than any one of these individually would. But you add in that panning, that stereo position spread, as well as some pitch detune. And you've got this nice, thick, interesting, almost analog type sound. Which of course you can modulate further or send through your filter section or effect. And instantly you've got this nice, rich, warm, character-filled sound that you can use as a building block for further processing and further sound design. Now, another interesting thing that you can do, once you have your modulation set more or less where you want it, you can, let's go back to this pitch modulation target. And let's turn this back to an octave, and we'll bring this amplitude down, way down, way down. I'm going to bring our filter cutoff up so we can hear what we're doing. Pardon my CPU cracking. So there we have some nice detune. What I'm going to do now is add a stepper, a pitch stepper, and create some random octave movement. So we'll reduce the step length to 3. And then right-clicking on this field here, you can go to Process, Create Linear Curve, and that just makes a straight ramping line. So for 3 points, we have negative 1 octave, we have the origin octave, and we have plus an octave. And the step length by default is set to 1, but if we scale back below 0, we hit this random step length. So each time it triggers, it'll trigger a new value. Now what we can do is selecting this window here, we can use our handy duplicate key once again, and let's just do 4 modulation sets. And then we can begin to choose some different targets for modulation sets. And we'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of these. Doesn't really matter, just so long as there's some difference and some variation. So now we have different waveforms being brought up an octave or down an octave. And you can dial this in to taste, and this might sound better with certain sets of waveforms compared to others, but this gives some more life and movement to the sound. And then say you want to tie your cutoff value to a macro, you would just have to go through and hit each set. And then you'll have control over all of the cutoff values in each modulation set. And we can continue to thicken this up in our effects chain. One thing that I like to do to add like warmth and character and depth is to use a chorus device. But I find that chorus often sounds best when it's mixed in with the original signal, or rather added to the original signal, as opposed to just running through the chorus effect directly. So the way that I like to do this is by creating a few effects chains here. We'll have 3. And then we'll bring in a send here, and we'll duplicate this send here. And this send, we're going to keep the source, this first send, and we'll send to effects chain 2. So the sound is coming in here, and then it's bouncing to effects chain 2. And because we kept the source, it's going to pass to this second send. This second send will send to effects chain 3. This effects chain 3 will be our summing effects chain, and we'll leave this on mute source. Then we'll insert our chorus device. Let me just find it. Alphabetical, shouldn't be too hard. And then we're going to duplicate this second send after the chorus device. So now the signal is coming in through here. It's passing, oops, didn't mean to do that. It's passing down to the chorus. And then each of those signals are passing and being routed to this third effects chain here. And this is just to sum the signal so that we can process it further if we want to, say adding a reverb to the entire signal, or perhaps a delay or some more filtering. This is just our summation chain. So we'll just put sum right here, and we'll put split right here, keep track of what we're doing, and we'll put chorus, or we'll just put effects right here. Okay, so then let's get in here and tweak our chorus parameters. I'm going to bring the rate down, we'll bring the depth up, maybe bring some feedback in there, and a little bit of delay. Too much feedback. Let's bring the cutoff up. And let's see how it sounds just running in parallel. A little cleaner. Gosh, sorry for the all the cracks. That's just how it is. I'm going to throw a reverb on here. Let's see, I'm looking for space, chain verb. And this will just give it even more sense of depth and presence. And notice the sound is somewhat distorted, but that's actually because of the character of the waveforms that we chose. These are all distorted waveforms with a high degree of clipping in the waveforms themselves. So if you were using unclipped waveforms, this would have a cleaner character. Perhaps it wasn't the best choice to use the distorted waveforms, but just wanted to show you this technique. It's a nice way to, create deep, rich, kind of warm, living sort of sounds in a really kind of quick and easy way, just by using multiple oscillators and some detune in the modulation section. Okay, that's what I got for you today. It's kind of a quickie. I hope this was useful for you. Feel free to leave in the comments any suggestions or comments or criticisms you may have. If you want to see other future videos, feel free to drop some ideas. And yeah. Make lots of music, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.